You use the resonance in conjunction with the cutoff to adjust the harmonics of the sound. So welcome to a warm October evening here in the Canary Islands, where we're going behind the scenes of Scary Things, one of the songs from the musical The Wrong Way Round by Steve Titford and Ben O'Hare, recorded in the studio a few kilometres that way along the east coast of Fuerteventura. Hope you're going to enjoy it. Welcome, friends, to this deep dive into Scary Things, the song from the musical The Wrong Way Round, published by Music Line and bought by hundreds of schools already. Thank you so much if you're one of those schools who's put it on or is about to put it on. Absolutely brilliant to hear that you're enjoying the show. Read a load of reviews that have come in. Thank you so much. You can listen to this song for free and watch a lyric video. I'll give you the link in the description. But right now, let's go behind the scenes and I'll give you a few insights into how I wrote and produced this song. So I grew up in the 80s, and my memories of TV in the 80s was mainly cartoons and epic theme tunes to go with those cartoons. We're talking things like Thundercats, The Mysterious Cities of Gold, Ulysses 31, The Raccoons. I could go on, but as a kid I used to enjoy the theme tunes as much as I did the actual story. So this is my little nod to that experience. I'd probably say it's a synth rock song. There are a lot of influences in there as well from the music of the 80s, things like The Boys of Summer by Don Henley, Call Me by Go West, Def Leppard, Toto. I crammed as many influences in as I possibly could. The song is about overcoming fear, and of course it introduces our fictional setting of Enn-Elite in the context of the play. It's about as 80s as I'm going to get. I wanted it to sound authentic, like it could have been recorded in the 80s, so there are a lot of vintage sounds and effects. The track count is pretty high. 263 tracks. That is, of course, huge. You'll be very glad to know I'm not going to go into detail for all of those 263 tracks. We're just going to have a general overview. So let's start off with the first sounds that you can hear in the song, giving it that Stranger Things kind of vibe. Of course, Kyle Dixon and Michael Stein had access to lots of actual 80s gear. I didn't. It's all done virtually. I did have a few synthesizers in the 80s, but not the really expensive ones. I had things like a Juno 106, JX8P, but the first sound we hear is an Oberheim. Definitely didn't have one of those. This is a software plugin, an emulation of an instrument. In this case, it's an Oberheim synthesizer. This synth sounds massive. By the way, parents, I'm sorry if I reference programs that your children are too young to watch at the moment, but of course they'll grow into these programs, so I'm going to carry on. Then, of course, you've got the bass arpeggio. And yes, this is a nod to Stranger Things. Similar pattern here on the notes. And then, of course, you've got that gnarly opening up of the sound, and that's done by adjusting the cutoff frequency. So you've got all these controls, and the one that lots of people use is the cutoff frequency. Yeah, so it's very open at the moment, the sound, but I can pull it back and you'll hear the sound become more closed, duller. And you use the resonance in conjunction with the cutoff to adjust the harmonics of the sound. So let's put that back. Of course, in the software, in Logic Pro, which is what I'm using here, you add some automation. Then where to go next? Well, let's hop over to the drums and have a look at those. You might have spotted that the instruments are roughly grouped into sections. I've got a whole bass section here with 11 different sounds on that section. Drums percussion has got even more sounds on it. Let's just have a look at the more interesting ones. The drum sounds on this track are a hybrid of real drums. And when I say real, what I mean is sampled, because actually very little of what you're hearing on this track is recorded. There are a few guitars that I recorded, but a lot of it is programmed or played in on the keyboard. That's the case with these acoustic drums that we've got here. Let's have a listen to those. And a company you're going to hear me mention quite a lot here, Native Instruments, have these fantastic plugins. This is one of them. I think this is Abbey Road 80s Drummer. There we go, Abbey Road 80s Drummer, and you can see the kit looking very nice there, and I can play that kit on the keyboard. So I've got the drums laid out on the keys here, the bass drum, snare. But that's not the only drum sound you're going to hear, because you've got some other sounds layered on top of that. Some of these are quite dirty sounding. So the goal of this was never to make something that sounded real. It was to make something that sounded huge, just like an 80s song. And I'm employing a lot of tricks that producers in the 80s used. In this case, Mutt Lange, who produced for Def Leppard, was used to layer samples on top of drums to make them sound even bigger than they actually are. And then, of course, after the intro, we go into the verse where the drums are unashamedly electronic. This is a plug-in of the famous Lindrum drum machine, used on loads of songs. You might recognise the sounds. Let's have a listen to that on its own. Of course, by today's standard, these sounds are pretty crude, but these kinds of sounds are still being used in records today. So a quick look at the sounds. You've got the kick drum, you've got the snare, which has got a delay on it, or echo. I call it delay. The hi-hat's got a little echo on it as well, some delay. And the famous clap sound. Again, with some delay on it. That's got a little modulator on it, that clap sound, so that it pans across at random intervals. You hear it and you never quite know what speaker you're going to hear it in. Another thing I like to do is to use the bass drum to reinforce some of the lyrics that are in the song. So in this case, you've got here, "This town won't know what's about to hit it. Lock down those grown-ups, no getting around. On the ground." Hear that do the rumbling. Then we're into another drum movement for the bridge. Again, more layering going on there. Another technique is to use reversed sounds as well. In this case, I've got the claps and a reversed version of the claps coming up before the actual claps, so that when the claps come in, you're kind of expecting them. Then our third drum movement is in the chorus. And here we're going for a hybrid technique again. I've got a snare called Go West-esque, because it reminds me of Call Me. Great song by Go West. I think this is absolutely ladled with gated reverb, if I remember. And a little bit of percussion in there as well, a shaker. And a big drum there. Put that together. So let's jump back to the bass section. My descriptions do make me smile sometimes. Beefy Poly 6. Let's have a listen to that. This is in the introduction. And then onto one of the hooks of the song, I think. This bass pattern. Two sounds at work there. You've got that ostinato there on quite a simple sound. And then the more interesting sound is this FM bass. This instrument is a plug-in version of the Yamaha DX7 keyboard. FM stands for frequency modulation. Manufacturers were trying to make these synth sounds more real. This is FM8. And I think this is actually one of the original DX7 patches. You can see it's called Bass Guitar 1. It sounds nothing like a bass guitar, but it works in a mix. We've got some basic controls here, and you can do a lot with the way you play the instrument as well. So, of course, in this case, you can open the sound up by hitting the keys harder. Let's turn all the effects off on this sound. In fact, it sounds too good. The real DX7 I don't think was ever that clean. It was never that clean. I think my dad had a DX7 and he used to keep going on about the DX7 hiss and moaning about how much he hated it. Of course, I wanted to add all that back in and more, so that's what I've done here on the plugins. Look at all this stuff here. Positively filthy now. By adding some distortion, an amp simulator, you're getting a little bit more unpredictability. You get these strange harmonics over the top as well, which again makes the sound a lot more exciting to listen to now. You can really make it bark. And check this out when I do the bend. You hear over the top. If you're of a certain age and you played video games on a Sega Mega Drive, you might recognise that sound as well, because the Sega Mega Drive used to use FM synthesis to make its music partially. Then we've got some real bass. By that I mean sampled. You get a slight hint of it in the verses. Then, of course, you hear it in earnest over the bridge section into the chorus. Down here you've got all these ghost notes. It's got a little slapback delay on it, that particular channel. And that actually works in conjunction with the FM bass. Let's put them both in together. Then we stay on the real bass for the chorus. And this has again got one of the hooks of the song in it, I think. And you hear that an octave higher up as well later in the song. One last bass element, we've got the fretless bass. Special mention because this isn't a Native Instruments plugin. This is actually Trillion by Spectrasonics, and that's what a fretless sort of looks like. A bass guitar with no frets. What that meant was it acted more like a double bass, you know, where you can glide from one note to the other. Very much a one-trick pony, a fretless bass. Lovely sound. It's almost used like a horn part in this middle section here.
So many fears you find.
Let's take a brief look at some of the guitar parts. The guitars, as you can probably guess, are layered up here. A mixture of recorded and sampled guitars. Those power chords are sampled. They're played on another plugin by Native Instruments, Electric Vintage, which is a Telecaster, of course, if you look at it. If you know your guitars, that's a Telecaster, isn't it? So, and then you can play the... One of the very few recorded instruments on this track is the guitar lead. I think you've got two versions of the same signal here. You've got the amped, which means it's going through an amp simulator. So if we can call that up, that's what the amplifier looks like. I think that's an old Fender Tweed. All very brilliant, obviously. And then you've got the DI direct injection. And the way I record these, because I'm such a lousy guitar player, when it comes to lead is I tend to break it up into sections so I can layer one half and then the second half. So you'll hear this is a 2-part guitar part. With a really good guitarist, it could probably be played as a single part. Now I'll add the other guitar. And there's a 3-part harmony guitar at the end here. In the verse, we've got 2 guitars at work, an acoustic guitar, and then, more interesting, you've got the picking part here on the Strat, I think it is. Yeah, that's a Strat. I mean, I've had to obviously write and play all these parts in. Again, all done on the keyboard. You can get some nice quirks in the sound by varying the velocity when you're playing them. In the second verse, which is more urgent sounding, we've got some power chords, I think, in this. Yes, we have.
This town.
Big guns here. Again, more transition stuff going on there with the slow attack guitar there. And it's also at the beginning as well, before the verse. The guitar solo is, I think, possibly 3 separate recordings. Let's have a listen. Yeah, that is my guitar playing, and then I've done the fill-in bits here on the other tracks. It ends with a Brian May-esque 3-part harmony. Yeah! Again, all the effects are done in the software. No real guitar pedals used or anything like that. Going to Guitar Rig here, there we go. That's a Pete Thorne patch. I've used his settings, and if you look at these pictures, they're so attractive, aren't they? And they remind you of the various amps and processors that a guitarist would use. Let's look at some of the keyboard sounds. We've already looked at the Oberheim. Let's look at some of the other recognisable elements of the song. For instance, the stab brass. My old friend, the Oberheim's back there for one brass part. That sound, I think, is the brass sound that's used on Jump by Van Halen. Do I play it, or do I get a copyright problem if I do that? Maybe if I play just a bit of it, I'll be okay. I'm going to stop there. And another very much used synth of the 80s, the Jupiter 8, although this is actually this is an emulation of it, obviously. This is brilliant plugin called Omnisphere. Go West as a reference. That's a lovely sound from the Jupiter 8. Now, part of the charm of these synths was that they were quite unpredictable. Of course, technology has improved these days, and if you wanted them to be, synths would actually be near perfect sounding. But obviously, they don't have that same musicality when they're perfect. So, to give you an example here, there's a pad sound that I use in the verse. Back on the Oberheim, I was obviously having an Oberheim moment when I put the backing track together for this song. But I've actually put some stuff in there on the plugins to make it lower quality on purpose. So if we turn the plugins off, I'm just going to mute the obvious ones. Well, there's a tremolo effect on there, which it's giving the. If I turn that off, you'll hear what I mean. It's quite static, isn't it? And I needed to make some space for some other instruments, which is why I put the tremolo effect in it. So it now becomes like a chugging kind of instrument, a bit like a train now. Here we have this part in the verse, one of my favourite parts.
Over and within, no imagination.
That's got a lot of delay on it. Now, piece of trivia about this part. My dad is partly responsible for that part because I was playing this to him in Jenny and Dad's kitchen on my laptop because that's what I was working on at the time. And he said, oh, it'd be really nice if you had something in that gap that you've got. And he went, it needs to go something like do-do-do-do. And I went, all right, okay, so we'll try, let's try a different version of do-do-do-do. So how do we do that? And then vary it the second time. So it went in the chord change. But you can hear all the other notes from the previous phrases overlapping it. So thank you for that one, Dad. Bit of an Easter egg here. When Elmer Bernstein was making the music for Ghostbusters, he had the use of a DX7, which we were talking about before. We had that bass sound on. And you can hear this quite a lot in the soundtrack to Ghostbusters. It's a sound called shimmer. I've just put it very quietly in the background to see if anybody picks it up.
Feeling free willing.
That brings us neatly onto the spooky lead. You've got to have one of these in a scary song, haven't you? And I think this is an emulation, a plugin of the Moog. Yeah, it's Native Instruments again. Monarch is what they call it. So classic mini Moog this is. And then you've got the portamento, the glide between the notes. So you can hear the portamento if I play one note and then the other one. Ooh. Loads of reverb and delay on it. And then part of the craft with these instruments, with these synth sounds, is introducing them gradually and then drawing your attention to them. So in the background, there's an electric piano part, and then it brings you into this stuff that's reinforcing the drama of the second verse. This town won't know what's about to hit it. That's an FM sound, and you can really make the instrument growl by hitting the keys hard. Another sound in there, just hanging in the background, is this quirky rhythm sound. Now this is done on Alchemy, I think, which is a Logic plugin, and it's on arpeggiator, so it's kind of doing its own thing. Then we do have some real piano in there, sampled piano. And then there's this big dramatic piano part as well, which is done using a piano run through a flanger, very milky and creamy. And instrumentally, that is really everything there is to the song. Obviously, it took quite a while to put all that together because you've got all the little variations as well, like in the chorus, the last chorus, you've got the variation to the minor chord. And of course, you're putting all the little bits and pieces in on the instruments as well, making them a little bit different each time you hear the chorus. You've got some other sounds in there as well, things like the orchestral hit. Just adds a bit of depth to the sound. We'll have a very brief look at the vocals. They were performed by Jessica Gillies and myself. Jessica's a very talented singer, and we layered her up very much on this to give the choir sound. This is one of the first songs that we recorded using the AI technology to clone voices and make it sound like a choir. The result is probably a bit better in the other songs and later recordings than this one, but the expression is there, and that's what we really cared about. And the way that we did this was I made a demo vocal first of all. In fact, I think we can probably pick that out somewhere. Yeah, we changed the vocal, we changed the lyrics. So we built up a lead vocal part. There it is, all the tracks that we've used. And you can hear that in isolation.
Over Enn-Elite, there's an eerie chill. Darkness is descending, extending.
So each of those tracks is a different performance, and we've had to obviously refine those performances. It takes a long time with the tuning and the editing, but it's worth it. Then we've got some harmonies, which are always quite fun. Let's listen to the harmonies. ENS for ensemble.
This town won't know what's about to hit it. Lock down those grown-ups, no kidding.
So when you add it to the choir, you get that full body sound.
This town won't know what's about to hit it. Lock down those grown-ups, no kidding around.
And then we've obviously done a lot more of that in the bridge and the chorus sections. In the bridge, we've actually broken it up into separate parts, I believe. Yes, we have. Let's just solo all the vocals for a second.
Watch out for the suspense. Watch out for malevolence. Watch out for the shadow of trepidation. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and you can hear me in there as well if you listen carefully enough. Another thing we did, which is used quite a lot in some songs when you're trying to create expectation, is some reversing technique. And what I mean by that is if we go to the beginning of the verse, you'll hear a little ah before it comes in. It gives you a hint of the note that's coming up. That's actually the reverb signal from the vocals reversed, then placed before the part. You can hear it clearer on this bit coming up.
Creepy feeling, freewheeling.
There. I'll solo that.
This town won't know what's about to hit it. Lock down those grown-ups, no kidding around. Feel the rumbling underground. Watch out for the suspense.
Oh, another technique, very quick, I've just stumbled upon that by accident, is to actually take the effects out completely on the stop, so you get a very dry signal there, which makes it leap out the speakers.
We can face those scary things, bumping in the night, 'cause our courage brings darkness into light. We can know those scary things.
I love that little slide up on the R's that we put in.
Scary things.
And some delay, just by way of a change. And then the big finish, of course.
We can face those scary things.
The final touch, very quickly, is the mastering. We actually used some tape emulation here. I love the EMI label on the reels there. And what's even better is that when you start the playback and engage these plugins, the reels start spinning round like a tape machine. Again, it just adds a little bit more unpredictability to the sound. And then we've got all the dynamics processing here, multi-band compression to really fatten it up. So let's stick all that in. In fact, what we'll do is we'll play a little bit without, and then we'll stick all of that in. So this is without. You're gonna liven it up a bit now.
Over and within, no imagining. There's a creepy feeling freewheeling.
And now it's kind of breathing.
Go now with the panicking population, running from the scary things, bumping in the night. Everybody clings to the morning lights, hoping that the scary things disappear so we can be alright. We can face those scary things.
Yeah. So there we go. That was Scary Things, a deep dive. I hope you enjoyed that. I really enjoyed making this song, even though it took an age to build from scratch. It was definitely worth it, I think, for the result that we ended up with. And massive thanks to Jessica Gillies for singing. Her vocals on that are fantastic. As I said at the beginning of the video, you can listen to that online for free. The whole song with the lyric video. Just go to the link in the description. And of course, please subscribe if you want to see more content like this. And appreciate your comments as well. See what you think. Scary Things from the musical The Wrong Way Round. Available from Music Line. I'll put a link to that in the description as well if you're looking for a show for any time of the year, which is lots of fun, ideal for year 5, year 6 upwards. Then I can obviously highly recommend The Wrong Way Round, and so can a lot of other people that have put the show on and enjoyed it. There we go, folks. I'm finishing up now. Let me know what you thought, and I look forward to making more stuff for you in the future. Until then, bye.